Hi friends, so today we are painting a farm dam, and you can get the outline for this one in my book, which is linked in the description below. There are 40 watercolor projects in this book, so lots for you to try out and enjoy. Let's start with a wet on wet sky. I'm painting it first just with water, and now I'm going over with ultramarine blue. Your sky at the top is darker than at the bottom, so as you move towards the horizon, just use water to sort of soften that color. Now clean your brush and lift up some of that paint to give the idea of soft clouds. You can also use your microfiber cloth to soften some areas and lift up some paint just to give the idea of soft clouds in the sky. Now you can see here my microfiber cloth had a color on it, so I'm just trying to lift that. Luckily it's an area where the trees are going to be, so I'm just trying to lift that color a little bit. But it's not the end of the world because my branches will go over it. Okay, so once you are sort of happy with your sky area, we can move to the foreground. Now that is just grass, nice and yellow, so I'm using yellow ochre for this, and I am just painting it first, just a flat wash of yellow ochre. I didn't wet the page first, I'm just painting it on directly, a nice wet mixture of yellow ochre. We are going to add some details and texture into this grass, so it just needs to be a flat wash at this stage. Okay, I'm adding in some of the burnt sienna just as a couple of shadow areas maybe, so, and just a bit of variation as well. So here underneath the dam I've put some, at the tree on the left you can see it sort of start to build up on your foreground a little bit. Now Payne's Grey just for my mountain, so just a flat wash of Payne's Grey for this distant mountain. So let's use some of the forest green just to drop in some color while my foreground is still wet. And I'm using my old brush that I always use to add texture to my grass or leaves. So as you can see, I'm holding the brush very upright and sort of just lightly touching the page with the bristles, because the bristles have been cut, so I want to bring out some of that texture that I've got. I'm using some of the forest green for the distant trees, just little blotches. Use a little bit of Payne's Grey for the bottom of the trees, just to make it a bit darker at the bottom than at the top of your trees, implying some shadow colors and some darker areas in the bushland. So this is more or less like a typical African farm image, like South Africa or Namibia. The photo was inspired sort of by my granddad's farm and a dam that he used to have there with a windmill next to it, or wind pump. Don't know what you call them in English. A windpomp in Afrikaans. I'm using Payne's Grey to paint the farm dam, and I want to leave a bit of white in it, so almost using a dry brush technique to create a bit of white as well. I'm using my old brush now just to add texture, so it's almost negative painting because I'm painting from the dam down, but I want some of the grass to look like it's coming through, so not just a straight line at the bottom of the dam, if that makes sense. And then just a very light wash on the right hand side for the dam. And then we can also drop some Payne's Grey, some burnt sienna or some warm sepia into this color to give the idea of a bit of rust maybe in the dam, if it's like a metal type of dam, the outside of it, or if it's stone, you know, it's got a bit of brown in it, so it just gives the idea maybe of a water leak or something like that. Okay, using warm sepia for my branches. Now, as you can see with the dam and the tree, I'm painting the left hand side of it darker, so I'm using lighter colors as I move to the right hand side of the object. Same with the water as well, adding more water as I move to the right hand side of this object, so that my shadows are falling on the left, the light is coming from the right. So always keep that in mind when you're painting. I've seen people before even put like a little sticker or something to the side where they want the light to come from, so that you can always be reminded of where your light is coming from and where your shadow will fall. So I'm starting to build up the leaves over here. I'm starting with a light green with the phthalo green, and then I'll move to my forest green, darker color, and even maybe a bit of Payne's Grey as I build shadows into my leaves. paint the opposite wall of your dam more of a warm sepia color, so there is a bit of variation between this side of the dam and the inside of the dam. And then add a nice dark line with the Payne's grey again. Paint your windmill or wind pump, that's what it's called. I'm painting that with a Payne's grey, but I'll also go over it with a gel pen, a waterproof pen, and you can make some of the legs thicker. I just went over it with a pen afterwards and I sort of left it like that, but you're welcome to make some of them thicker or make some of them stand out a bit more. Looking at the picture now afterwards, you know, we always are worst critics, and I'm feeling like I could have made it a bit thicker, so it's completely up to you. I'm talking about the legs that I'll do in a bit. But yes, so always sort of give it a couple of days and look at your picture again and see if there's anything that you can add to it. So in hindsight, that's something I would have changed or added, but also know when to stop. And I think with watercolor, that's the thing. When is our painting finished? Like if you push it a bit too far and add too much detail, then that's not going to work. So it's very important to know when to actually stop, but yeah, just have fun with it. So I'm adding some more details to the grass now, first with yellow ochre, and then I'm going to go in with Payne's grey to add some shadows into my grass as well. And we still need to do the branches of the tree with a rigger brush. If you don't have a rigger brush, you can use a pen, or you can use just a really thin, whatever brush you have that's the thinnest. Remember, when you're painting tree trunks, always, or tree branches, always work from thickest to thin, or you know, thick closer to the tree and thinner as you go further away from the tree. So just keep that in mind when you are painting every single branch. Have it go from thick to thin to give it a more natural look. So, and also you can do squiggly lines. They don't have to be perfectly straight. It is a tree. When you start painting, you sort of start looking at the world differently, and you sort of start thinking, how can I paint this? How can I you know, move this sort of to the next level. If you are looking at a tree, really look at that tree, look at the branches, look at the shapes, look at the leaves, look at where it's darker, look at where it's lighter. If you're looking at a landscape, look at it, like really take it in as if you were going to paint it. What color is that mountain that's far away? What colors do I see here around me? And really take it in that way, as in to think to yourself, how would you paint this? So just adding a few final touches. Going to do the pen on the wind pump, and I'm going to do the branches for the tree with the rigger brush, and then we're basically done. As I said, you can always make some of the legs a bit thicker on the wind pump, and add some details that you want. You can put some birds in the sky if you want to, or whatever you feel like, but have some fun. And I hope you enjoyed this painting, and happy painting as always. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't done so, and comment or share your painting on my socials. I'd love to see what yours look like.